Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay. Good. Welcome this evening. We're delighted to have you here. I'm Apsara DeQuinzio, Senior Curator of Modern and Contemporary Art here at the Nevada Museum of Art. And thank you. Tonight we are delighted to be joined by Rodrigo Cas and Amanda Carneiro. You just witnessed two performances. Hopefully you all saw that. The first one was Drones and Roses by Paulo von Poser with Brian Kulpa. And the second was Interior Geometry Loving by Rodrigo Cas. Rodrigo Cas has been in residence here at the Joyner Jafrida Artist Residency Program since the end of August, along with his partner, Paulo von Poser. His exhibition is part of our Joyner Jafrida Visiting Artist Program here at the museum. Earlier this summer, we welcomed Thomas J. Price and Edgar Arsenault, and Rodrigo Cas is the final exhibition in the series this summer. Before I introduce our guests, I want to thank our terrific partners in this series and program, Fred Jafrida and Pamela Joyner, who make this whole entire thing possible. Rodrigo Cas was born in 1983 and works in Sao Paulo, Brazil. In 2006, he received a BA in Plastic Arts at the College of Santa Marcelina in Sao Paulo and studied philosophy and theology at the Jesuit College in Belo Horizonte from 2007 to 2008. Interestingly, Cas was a monk in the Carmelite Religious Order of Sao Paulo from 2000 to 2008, where he learned to paint Byzantine religious icon paintings with tempera paint. Influenced by philosophy and art history, Cas utilizes painting, sculpture, and video to explore the concreteness of things, extracting the color, texture, weight, function, and movement, or lack thereof, of concrete to manifest the formal language of his expression. He has shown at many important museums throughout Brazil and beyond, but significantly, this is his first solo exhibition in a U.S. institution. He is represented by Fortes de Eloa and Gabriel in Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, as well as Anthony Meyer Fine Arts in Mill Valley, California. We thank his galleries for their great collaboration on this project. And I know they are here this evening, too. Amanda Carneiro is curator at the Museo de Arte de Sao Paulo, otherwise known as MASP, and was a co-organizer of the 60th Venice Biennale in 2024, which was a beautiful biennale. I hope some of you had a chance to see it. Recently, she curated the exhibitions and catalogs of Abdias Nascimento, Leonora Antunes, and Sonia Gomez at MASP. Carneiro holds a master's degree in social history from the University of Sao Paulo, where she is also a PhD candidate. Previously, she worked at the Museu Afro Brazil, a museum dedicated to the history and art of the African diaspora. She's also a co-editor of the magazine After All. We are also joined this evening by Rosanna Bertani, who is the translator. So please join me in welcoming our distinguished guests.
Olá. Hi. Hello, everyone. So my name is Amanda Carneiro, as you've heard. We are here together with Rodrigo Cas. It's a real pleasure to be here with you all today at the Nevada Museum of Art for this conversation around the exhibition that you just saw, and hopefully you like it. This is part of Joyner Gilfrida Art Visiting Artist Program, as Apsara just said, and I want to share my sincere thanks to the museum for the invitation and warm welcome. I'm really glad to be here in Reno. I was received by an amazing community of lovely people. I also want to say thank you to the leadership of this museum, especially the director, David Walker, and his amazing team, including Apsara, the Queensview, and Colin Robertson, but also everyone else who brought this program to life. A special thank you for Pamela and Fred, who have been supporting Brazilian art for a long period now, and who have been made a huge difference, as we could see, by bringing not only Rodrigo Cas, but also other artists who participated in this program. And of course, it's like a privilege to Brazilian people to be in dialogue with the US context. So thank you for that. And tonight we celebrate this first solo show of Rodrigo Cas here in the US, a very well-deserved presence, not only because of the dialogue that he creates with many artists from the United States, but also because, I mean, of course, that knowledge exchange is always good for everyone. Rodrigo Cas works with abstraction, as you probably could see, but it's a different way of dealing with abstraction, and that's part of a long dialogue with Brazilian concrete art and new concrete art, but it's also pointing to dialogue with art history in general, right? So many of you could see, probably recognize geometric forms in his works. And this period, especially the 60s, not only in Brazil but abroad, it was a period in which the hard forms of geometry became part of a discussion that made the geometry more than hard forms to become symbolic as well. So many artists started to engage with geometry to give them the sense of life, right? And we could see here that Rodrigo has developed himself a very singular way of dealing with geometry, which includes rhythm that we could saw live now with his performance. That includes poetry, but also something that we will discuss a little bit later, that is sensuality. And he also developed a very singular medium that I don't know if you had the chance to go really close to the works to realize that he is painting with concrete, blended with pure pigments, and applied to linen as a way to explore line, colors, forms, and perceptions in abstract painting. Here at the space, the vocabulary of geometry extends into the space. So I don't know if you also realized that the forms of the gallery are somehow reflected into the works. We see them as like perfect forms, but then we realize that they are not so perfect as we could experience for the first time. And so pointing to that with minimal gestures, it's also echoing the contemplative rhythm that It's part of our daily lives, and sometimes we miss it, right? So the installation is also suggesting reflection on mysticism, inner life, and spatial construction. And with that, I would turn to Rodrigo to begin a walk through the exhibition and his performance as well, which was the first time, and I was really glad to see. It's very special for all of us. It was the first time that Rodrigo did a performance that it was not only for the video, but also for the audience. And the performance was, I mean, very interesting because it was also playing with the video that is presented, right? So at a certain point, the same gesture that we were watching, he was doing with the performance. And it's, of course, bringing from like the life experience, the volume, the material, and the sensorial part of the video itself. It's a new way of seeing the image that you present yourself in your videos to the body presence and to the space itself, which creates an idea of concrete more related to time, to presence, and to breath. And so because of that, I would like to ask you, Rodrigo, briefly to speak about the performance presented today and what is the relation between the performance and the works that we are seeing here in the exhibition.
Eu acho que a primeira coisa o meu desejo sempre foi de estar aberto ao mistério.
I think that the first thing is that I wish to be open to the mystery.
E o mistério me acompanha, né? Nos acompanha, né? Através, seja das coisas materiais, físicas, mas também das sensações e das apreensões espirituais.
And mystery always follow not just myself, but also us in things and also in our religious and spiritual experience.
E eu sempre fui muito inquieto com a vida.
I always been very restless about life.
Isso me levou a morar dentro de um mosteiro.
And that took me to live for a while inside a monastery.
E viver uma vida contemplativa, de silêncio e de escuta, né? E de abertura ao mistério.
And that led me to live a life of contemplation, mystery, and reflection within that mystery.
Então, eu estudei primeiramente pintura e iconografia bizantina, comecei a pintar igrejas dentro do mosteiro.
And so first I started to paint Byzantine iconography, paint church inside the monastery.
E os meus freis, né, os monges, me convidaram a fazer um curso superior de artes plásticas.
And the monks I was with, they actually invited me to do a class, training on plastic art.
Então, já no primeiro ano, eu já comecei a fazer vídeo e performance. Então, desde lá eu venho fazendo vídeos.
And since the first year, I started doing videos and performances, and since then, I have been doing videos.
Desde 2012 até agora, então eu tenho 42 anos e metade da minha vida é fazendo vídeo, investigando e nessa inquietação de ver o que pode surgir, né, quando eu estou diante das minhas ações, dos meus gestos.
And since 2012, I have been doing this. I am 42 years old, and half of my life I have been investigating, restless, and seeing where this was leading me to, the results of it.
Quando a gente vê, às vezes, um trabalho meu, a gente vê ele é um vídeo, né? Mas eu quero que o meu corpo esteja ali. Então, os vídeos eles têm escalas no tamanho da minha mão, não é mais agigantado. Então, eu tenho uma escala que é a escala do meu corpo. Então, a projeção tem essa escala.
So when you see a video that I'm doing, normally I want the projection of my body on it too. So my hand is normally at the scale, so I can project that presence.
Então, acho que, comentando um pouco sobre o que a Amanda falou, né? É a primeira vez que eu trago uma performance onde o meu corpo está realmente presente. Né?
And following on what Amanda just mentioned, this is the first time I actually do a performance where my body is actually present.
E aí, o que está por trás, eu acho que é criar uma geometria que vem da mão, né? Que ela é acessada, mas eu acho que a ideia é um pouco habitar esse espaço, marcar esse território, né?
And basically, this geometry incorporates my hand, and I want to, with that, mark my territory, the territory that I'm working on.
Quando estamos diante de um lugar novo, a gente quer marcar ele, né? Marcar essa presença. E eu acho que é uma marcação para mim mais do que física. Ela é um marco espiritual na minha alma estar aqui.
When the first time we do something, we want to mark our presence, and it's not just a spiritual presence, a physical presence, but also a spiritual presence is marking my presence in the here.
Porque aqui a gente está diante de um museu pulsante e de uma comunidade incrível que me acolheu e é isso.
And here we are in front of, this presence of this wonderful community that welcome us so warmly.
I would like to take on that to ask you about the exhibition title and the relation that you established between geometry, abstraction, and mystery, and spirituality, as you just mentioned.
Based on that, I want to ask you about the exhibit and the relationship between the mystery, the geography.
Essa é uma questão, né? Então, eu acho que... Ai, pergunta, eu preciso...
Como você vê o mistério hoje? Você falou um pouco do título da exposição e como você vê o mistério relacionado ao título da exposição.
Eu acho que assim, fazendo uma retrospectiva assim do que eu já fiz, né, até então assim, eu cheguei a uma síntese de algumas cores, que são 7 cores.
And in retrospective, and analyzing what I already have done, I based on 7 colors, which are the 7 colors that I had worked on.
São as 7 cores do arco-íris, né?
The 7 colors of the rainbow.
E o arco-íris ele é um marco misterioso no céu, é um sinal, uma presença física, mas ao mesmo tempo volátil.
And the rainbow is a frame in the sky. It is a physical presence, but at the same time is also mysterious, volatile.
E para ele acontecer, ele precisa de condições para ele aparecer, né? Então, eu acho que
And for the rainbow to show itself in the sky, there are necessary special conditions.
E eu acho que a condição... Isso me levou, então, para essas 7 cores. Eu estou apresentando aqui três pinturas dessas 3 cores dessa série que se chama Mystic Revolution.
Okay. And from the 3 colors, I have worked with 3 art that I'm exhibiting here, which is from an exhibit called mystic revolution.
Cada parte dessas 7 cores tem uma relação com um assunto, e isso vai virar uma publicação, um livro.
Each part of that work is related to a theme and is going to be published in a book.
Can I take on that and ask about this one in specific that is related to the forest? So you're working with air, earth, and I mean we can see a clear relation with the idea of earth and of course that the forest is suggested by the color, but I would like to hear more about the forms and edges in this work.
So based on that, I would like to talk about this work. Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, a gente não tinha.
Eu entendi. Nesse trabalho eu trago a cor, então a cor verde, né, relacionada ao ar, né, mas de uma maneira expandida, né.
In this work, I work with air, but in a more expanded way.
Eu tenho feito alguns retiros espirituais de 2 em 2 meses para poder compreender a mim mesmo e também entender o que é o amor.
I have been doing taking some time to be on my own every 2 months to understand myself better and also understand love better.
Quando você compreende o que é o amor, você compreende a si mesmo e compreende o outro, né?
When you understand about love, you understand about yourself and about the other.
E eu comecei a ler os escritos espirituais dos santos carmelitas.
And I started reading the writings of the Carmelite monks and the saints.
E muito sobre a alma, né? A alma humana.
And a lot about the soul, the human soul.
Mas eu acho que a gente tem mais do que, né? Todos os corpos têm alma.
And we have more than that. All the bodies have a soul.
E a gente precisa deixar que as coisas se manifestem. A gente precisa ter um respeito e uma reverência, né? Porque somos partes de uma mesma síntese.
And we need the things to express themselves and have respect and reverence with the same, to let them show their own syntax.
E aqui é como eu entendo a alma, né? A alma é nosso ar sagrado, né? O pulmão, a floresta, a alma.
And this is the air. This is how I understand the forest is our lung, our air. They are sacred.
Então, a alma não é esse lugar onde a gente fica na igreja rezando, quieto e acolhendo, né? Ela é a floresta e a gente precisa cuidar, né? Porque a alma é o ar. E a floresta, né, é o ar, de onde a gente vem. Então as coisas estão conectadas.
And the soul is something that is not quiet and still, but is the forest. The soul is air. The forest is air. All those things are connected.
E a gente está queimando a floresta, a gente está queimando a nós mesmos e nos autodestruindo e destruindo a nossa alma.
And the forest is burning and we are burning ourselves and we are with that destroying our own soul.
Então, é um trabalho contemplativo, mas também é um entendimento meu e eu acho que também é uma provocação para algumas pessoas que eu vou convidar para escrever sobre esse capítulo do meu livro.
So it's a contemplative work where I meditate, and I'm going to actually invite people to explain in the book this relationship.
Quer colocar um?
Thank you. It's also happening the same with this work in the exhibition. This idea will become a more comprehensive publication in which Rodrigo is inviting many authors to be provoked by very abstract forms and departing from them, discuss not only desires but daily life situations, including those ones related, for instance, to forest devastation. And it's quite interesting to understand that there's a connection, especially with indigenous artists working through abstraction, that are seeing and somehow pointing to us that there's other ways of seeing the world that are not exactly figurative, but it's showing ways of dealing with, a abstract way of thinking, but there's like a very material result. And one of them is somehow decodifying forests into different formats, which is also a way of somehow preserving the possibility of thinking outside of the box, which we can see. Here, we don't need to go all over them, but I wanted to show this piece because it's also related to your past as a monk. It's of course not exactly so direct, but you can recognize, I hope, a certain religio iconography or a certain visuality that points to, for instance, Christ and his crucifixion, right? But you see just a part of it, not the entire body. But it's also, although it's pointing to that, it's also presenting the artist's own body to the work. And in this exhibition that happened, it was a biennial in Brazil. You can see that it was placed on the floor. So it's also bringing down the idea of elevation. There's like double provocation, right? That you see the feet, they are suspended. They are a bit suspended, but the screen is placed on the floor. And this is something that Rodrigo is doing a lot, presenting his own body into his videos. And so I would like to hear you a little bit more on that relation of exposing your own body in connection to your religious past.
Eu já acho que nas minhas inquietações, né, com a performance, com o vídeo, eu tenho trazido vários elementos e aí que são, né, relacionados a ar, terra, água e fogo.
In this restlessness that I have had, I brought them in video with many elements which represent earth, fire, and air, and water.
Aqui é um gesto de colocar leite, né? Então, no sentido de ser água, né? O leite, né? O líquido nos meus pés, nas minhas pernas, né? E como se fosse um ritual, uma oferenda.
So here the gest of having milk, which represent the liquid, as a ritual, an offering.
E o leite é algo dos elementos mais misteriosos que eu acho que nós temos em contato, né?
And I think that milk is one of the most mysterious things that we have contact with.
Now I'm very curious. Why?
Eu já usei muito leite nos meus vídeos.
I already use a lot of milk in my videos.
E ao mesmo tempo ele é, né, um elemento que foi usado também para lavar a pessoa que morreu, né, purificar ela para o sepultamento.
It was used for many things, but it was used also to wash the dead body of someone to make it ready for being buried.
E as minhas últimas investigações têm sido muito a pensar sobre a morte e sobre o amor.
And a lot of my reflections were about thinking on death and love.
E são os últimos 2 capítulos desse livro.
And those are the 2 last chapters of this book.
Everyone is now very curious about the book as well.
E eu acho que é isso, assim. Existe um sacrifício, né, de ser artista, né? É difícil fazer arte, né? Não é algo, é uma vida, né?
And that's what it is. It is a sacrifice to make art, and also it's difficult to be an artist. It's a life.
E o amor exige sacrifício. Ele precisa de dedicação. Ele precisa todo dia. Eu acho que é isso que eu faço na minha vida no estúdio, né? Eu fico no estúdio todo dia. Se vocês forem lá no meu estúdio, eu vou estar lá trabalhando, feliz e amando.
And you know, love requires a lot of dedication and sacrifice. I go to the studio and I work all day. I love working, and I do it loving it.
Yeah, that's the real sense of the idea of a labor of love, right?
Yeah.
That artists are usually doing in their works. But I would like to hear you a little bit more about your technique, especially the use of concrete. We discussed it a bit, the videos, but these lines that you're seeing here, but also you will be able to come back to the exhibition and pay a little bit more attention. It's a technique that Rodrigo created, so it's a very singular gesture that I would like you to share with the audience a little bit more on how you create those.
Eu acho que o que eu espero de tudo é uma grande transformação.
What I hope, I wish from everything is a big transformation.
Que movimentos ocorram, né, diante da pessoa que está olhando para os meus trabalhos, que são convites.
That movements really happen within the person that is watching and looking at my work. They are real invitations.
E essas linhas de concreto, elas marcam espaço, elas definem, elas querem vir para frente, para a pessoa que está olhando, né, para o espectador.
And those lines made of concrete, they mark a space. They want to project themselves toward the person that is looking at the work.
Mas quando eu estou trabalhando, elas são feitas de muitas camadas. Então você aplica uma camada, aplica uma camada, aplica uma camada, até que a coisa se transforme, né? Até a grande transformação acontecer.
And when I'm doing the actual work, I do it on layers. So layer after layer after layer and after layer. until I see the great transformation happening.
Isso é a oração, né? Essa insistência, né? Todo dia, né? Todo dia. Eu estou vivo e preciso manter o meu corpo, preciso também deixar que as coisas se manifestem, né? Que eu me manifeste e que as coisas se manifestem.
And that is a prayer, is that insistence, is that every day that I'm alive, and that's my presence and the livelihood.
E eu acho que, em síntese, o que eu quero trazer com o concreto é presença, né? Materialidade, né? Mas, ao mesmo tempo, movimento e provocar transformação através da cor, através da forma, através de uma forma que você não compreende muito bem, porque...
In summary, what I want to do is, with the concrete, is to materialize it, to make it material, a presence, provoke transformation, and with the use of colors and shapes.
E não somente uma apreensão visual, mas sensações físicas, quem sabe até curas, né, através da cor, porque eu acho que a cor cura, né? A arte é curativa.
Mm-hmm. And it's not about just the visual impact, but also about physical sensations and even cures, because the color, I believe it cures through sensation.
I like the idea of the repetition of the gesture. We can see that here in this work, that it's handmade, right? And repeated the idea of material and pointing to the materiality of the work itself, which is telling a lot about his program as an artist. But I also wanted to comment that, concrete, they are related to construction a lot, and in Brazil, very much related to architecture, but a special type of architecture, which is the modernist Brazilian architecture, right? So it's also pointing to a certain tradition in Brazil. And we can also see the relation of the concrete with a certain desire of making paintings to get to a certain three-dimensional plane, right? So the paintings are here in the image, but also there in the exhibition. They are assuming forms and angles that seems not exactly squared, that provoke a certain sense of not correctness. I don't know how to say that in English, in fact, that it doesn't feel correct to see those, different forms. And many of them, as we could see here in this recent exhibition, but also here, that not only the painting, but also the videos, they are being framed in a very, unusual way. I bet you are not exactly familiarized with that, because it's a very particular, singular gesture of Rodrigo's work. So, yeah, I would like to hear you a little bit more about this certain, that you do not adapt somehow to a certain frame of what painting means, and the movement of making those works incorporate a certain sense of space.
Eu acho que eu quero, nessas formas que são, eu quero criar um certo distúrbio também, né? De criar algo que talvez não exista, uma forma, uma abstração que não exista, porque isso me aproxima do mistério, da mística.
I think that what I want to do with those shapes is create something that provokes and even disturbs and creates that experience, that mystical experience, something that may not even exist.
Eu acho que tem uma perspectiva inversa que vem da iconografia, né? Então, a iconografia bizantina me marcou muito, essa perspectiva inversa.
And I think it has to do with this perspective, this inverse, contrary perspective of the Byzantine iconography. The Byzantine iconography is something that really influenced me.
E eu adoro fazer essas formas, porque elas são incríveis. Quando eu vejo um desenho que eu fiz, né, de algo muito, parece complexo, mas é simples também, né?
And I love to do those shapes. I think they are incredible. It's something that seems complex, but it can be simple at the same time.
Essa foi uma exposição que eu fiz que tinham 12 vídeos no mesmo espaço e ela falava sobre chamava Libera Abstrahire.
This is an exhibit that I did with 12 videos at the same time, and it is called Libera Abstrahire.
E ela parte de outras 12 pinturas que eu fiz, que eu acho que deve estar aí.
Hello. And they actually come from 12 paints that I think they are here.
E que elas primeiro foram pinturas e depois viraram escultura.
And first they were paintings, and they turn into sculptures.
Acho que a gente podia ver os vídeos, né? E comentar.
Rodrigo prepared a set of videos. They are clips, very short, and to think about the relation of making painting into sculptures into videos into performances. We are going to see a bit of those videos as a way also to open the floor to your questions. So if you could please play the video.
São trabalhos anteriores, de mais de 10 anos atrás.
Those are work. They are previous work made 10 years ago.
E eu acho que eles se aproximam de uma ideia de abstração muito expandida.
And they are very close to an idea of a very extended abstract.
Just to say that the Civilità Americana, this one, that it's a gesture that we just saw live. So it's nice to see, the career of an artist and the way that things unfolds. That a very early work became part of something that we saw today.
Eu usei muito papel, já plano, plástico, materiais de carnaval.
I use a lot of paper, plain paper, plastic, carnival material.
Eu moro numa região em São Paulo que ela tem muitos materiais de arte e de roupa para carnavalesco.
I live in a city where we have a lot of material, a lot of clothing material for carnival and to make the costumes for carnival.
Aqui também eu uso papel, basicamente papel e fogo, né?
Here I use paper, basically paper and fire.
E para mim acho que é o único vídeo preto e branco que eu tenho, os outros são todos coloridos.
And I think that this is actually the only video I have in black and white. All the other ones are colorful.
Yeah, and here we can see. Here we can see. We can see the presence of the fire that is now a subject into the 4 elements and the book that you're about to release.
O fogo é muito importante no meu trabalho.
Fire, yes, fire is very important in my work.
Mas não esse fogo, é um fogo do desejo, da pulsão da alma, né, da abertura, desse calor que a gente sente para poder fazer algo bonito, belo.
But not this fire, but the fire of the desire, the pulsing of the soul, to be able to make something beautiful.
Num mundo muitas vezes não bonito, né, violento. Então, eu também penso muito nisso, né, são quase autobiografias tudo o que eu faço.
In a world that is not so beautiful at times, it can be violent. What I do is basically an autobiography.
Eu acho que são também coisas que não me fazem ficar louco, né? Num mundo tão absurdamente absurdo. Né?
Mm-hmm. And those are things that sometimes, make me go crazy with the absurds that have been happening in the world. They are so absurd.
That's a really nice way to open to the questions. We are very thankful not only to you, but all the artists, because somehow they are also saving us from the craziness and madness that are present in the world, right? And the possibility of getting in contact with something that comes from poetry. It's a way of taking us from all the bad news that are all around almost all the time. So thank you for sharing not only your ideas today, but also your work through the exhibition. We have time for a few questions. I hope you're very curious and excited to be able to have your own questions to Rodrigo. So who is excited to start?
So we have a mic that will, if you have a question, just raise your hand and the mic will come to you. And just a reminder that we may need to translate the question. So speak loudly and slowly into the mic so that we can translate if necessary.
Hi. Amanda was talking a lot about about the history of abstraction in Brazil, and I was wondering if, as that movement was called neo-concretism, whether there is an interesting conversation to be had about the symbolism or the strength of working in concrete, in abstraction, but in this sort of emotional and spiritual way.
Não, sim, totalmente. Eu acho que a grande questão do neoconcretismo eu acho que é essa abertura para a vida, né? E eu acho que Lygia Clark tem uma alma maravilhosa, linda. Só é possível fazer o que ela fez com uma alma espiritual.
Yes, of course, totally. Neoconcretism is opening to life, to the soul, you can only do that work if you are open to the emotions and the soul.
Eu percebo muito isso, assim, uma abertura, né, para a vida, né, mas não é uma abertura, é uma abertura completamente, né, também conectada com um outro plano, né, que não é esse, assim.
I see a lot of opening to life, but in a different ways connected to another, not to this life, but to another plan.
Yeah,
That
that's-
answers?
I want to add some thoughts about it because I feel that's the presence of Latin American art into the discussion, what it means to be abstract, and what the neo-concretism did, and what many of the Latin American artists, but especially Brazilian artists, are doing with abstraction today, points to the idea that those really basic geometric forms, they respond to in different ways to different contexts, right? So not only Ligia Clarke, but also Gego in Venezuela or Helio Oiticica, the way that they were creating forms that we can connect not only with Rodrigo Cas, but also Sheroanawi, Hauikwi, and the ways that many of indigenous artists are looking to abstraction and giving to them a very symbolical presence. It's a way of being part of the conversation, but from global South perspective, I would say.
Hello, greetings, Rodrigo and Amanda. My name is Ayana. How are you doing?
Fine.
Good.
Better now.
Good. So I had a question, and as you were talking, and as I was looking at your work, I really appreciate the spiritual aspect that's a part of it. And with me being an artist and an educator, and also I have lived in Colombia, so which is right next to Brazil, and being able to work with the youth there, I wanted to know, with your work going forward, how do you expect to inspire the youth with your work? Because that's very important to carry on with artwork, I believe.
Nossa, uma questão maravilhosa.
That's a wonderful question.
Acho que o meu desejo é provocar, né? Provocar e fazer com que a pessoa se abra, porque acho que para poder ver qualquer obra precisa abrir o coração, né? E abrir muito. Né?
I think that my deepest wish is to provoke, because to admire an art, you really have to open yourself. You really have to.
E eu acho que as minhas ideias têm ido muito para um caminho mais aberto e no sentido de provocar questões, levantar questões que estão no trabalho, mas também que também não estão, mas podem estar, né? Acho que o meu trabalho é muito aberto.
And to provoke ideas, to be open for ideas, to question, to be provoked by things that maybe are in my work, but could not be in the work, but they could be.
There's always a part in which we create together with the artist, right? When Rodrigo presents his work to us, there's an addition that it's our presence and our experience in relation to that work that creates meaning and layers to the work itself. So that's something very interesting about art, the possibility of creating together, right? And to think outside of the box, that's freedom. freedom in the way that we see things, freedom in the way that we experience things, and the way that we give meaning to the things as well. So it's, I mean, the inspiration to the youth comes from the practice of doing art in any case. And I mean, I'm not an artist, but what makes me very inspired by artists, I mean, many things, that's one of them, is the fact that they keep doing their work, even when, you know, art is being disregarded. So, I mean, Rodrigo has been doing his work, you know, for years before, you know, getting his first solo presentation in the US. And with this exhibition or not, he would probably be doing his work anyway. So it's telling a lot to us in terms of practice, but also the work itself. I mean, especially using Rodrigo's example, they are very common to us. They are like very basic forms, like square, triangles, but the way that they are created take those very regular forms out of the boxes that we placed those forms before, right? So it's a way of moving something from inside the way that we think, outside of the, you know, the things that we were used to do it. And that for a young audience, it's super important, I mean, and to find spaces as museums that they can go crazier than they are able to do in their schools, are something to protect, to be protected.
Senor, in the piece there was a video where somebody was placing sticks in a frame. Were you the artist, the hands, were those your hands? Or are you the artist in the camera taking the shot?
Os seus vídeos, ela quer saber se os seus vídeos são feitos por você.
Yeah.
Explicar como é que você posiciona a sua câmera em relação à sua presença.
Quando eu comecei, era eu sozinho, num tripé e uma câmera, isso em 2002.
When I started in 2002, I started on my own with a camera and a tripod.
Isso foi até, talvez, 2016.
This was until 2016, maybe.
E depois eu comecei hoje eu trabalho com muita gente, então tudo que eu tenho aqui é graças a uma equipe incrível que eu tenho, são muitas pessoas.
And now I work with a lot of people, and all the work you have seen here is thanks to many, many people, incredible people that is an incredible team that have been working together.
I'm sorry, I have to say they are not so many. It's just because when you're used to work by yourself and you finally have a team, it becomes everything, right? And of course that they deserve your recognition, but as you see, it seems like a factory, and in fact it's like 3 people, right?
Não, mas eu...
Oh, and the gallery, of course, there's the gallery that is doing a lot of work. Alex is here, is one of his galleries. And of course, there's a structure. But I'm saying that just because, I mean, usually, not only artists, curators as well, we, at the beginning of our careers, we are so alone. I mean, so that when we get to a point where there's a group of people working together, it feels everything.
Mas, por exemplo, hoje eu tenho um diretor de fotografia, eu tenho um montador, eu tenho um colorista, eu tenho um estúdio de som, só para fazer o som, que são, às vezes, 5 pessoas.
Okay, for the videos, I actually have right now a photography director. I also have someone that helps mount all the structures. I have a colorist. I have a studio, an audio studio for the audio, and right now I have 4 people working on that.
E no meu estúdio eu trabalho com 4 pessoas.
And at the studio, in my studio, I have 4 people.
Todo dia.
Every day.
Obrigado.
So the videos from the beginning to the ones that are seen here, that are now counting with the structure of a proper film, they change in terms of color and of course framing. But we could see through the videos that the gesture, it's quite similar, right? And the idea of, so the presence, his presence on his videos is somehow creating this identity that you can see through different periods in his career.
Eu acho que porque sou eu mesmo assim, né? Mas eu gosto até muito do meu corpo porque eu não tenho muito pelo. Então, minha descendência é indígena.
My background is native, so I really like my body because I have very little hair, body hair.
E eu acho que o meu braço pode ser o braço de qualquer pessoa, né? Não é um braço masculino ou um braço. Eu acho que tem um sentido de ser uma entrega, como se fosse um ato sacerdotal, litúrgico.
And because that, I obviously my arms could be the arms of anybody. It could be the arms of a man. It could be the arms of anybody, and is in the sense of giving. Of giving myself, almost on the sense of a liturgy or a sacerdotal way.
Yeah, today we were making fun of his feet, that is all the time in the videos, So now we recognize Rodrigo Ca's video and we see a feet that looks like him. Please.
I think we have time for one last question.
What is your process for moving from a concept that you have or an idea to a finished piece of art? Do you draw or do you use models, or how do you get there to that piece of concrete that's colored and has all of the aspects of it that we see in a finished piece?
Very good question. Yeah, really good one to finish the talk.
É um processo complexo, mas muito simples também.
It's a complex process, but also pretty simple too.
Por exemplo, o vídeo que está na exposição, eu falei, eu quero quero descobrir a forma, quero cavar com as minhas mãos e encontrar um círculo, triângulo e o quadrado.
For instance, the video that is here at the exhibit, what I wanted was to discover the shapes, the circle, the square, the triangle with my own hands.
Mas de onde vem a ideia, eu não tenho controle. E eu acho que isso é o mais maravilhoso, né? Porque o encontro com o mistério, ele se dá sem a gente querer, sem expectativas.
And how that idea comes to me, I don't know. And that's the beauty of it, the wonderful thing, because it's the mystery that comes together with the ideas.
E assim é quando a gente reza, né? Deus nos surpreende, ou o sagrado nos surpreende. Ele quer surpresas, ele quer provocar movimentos gostosos na nossa alma.
And that is a religious experience, a God and the sacred wants to express themselves on those moments. They want to give us pleasant experiences.
Perfect. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us today. It was a pleasure.
It's not easy to think in two languages simultaneously, so please, thank you so much for your efforts this evening, and we so appreciated it.
I'm sorry. There's only one final gesture that is a text really small that Rodrigo wants to share with us, and then we can go. Yeah.
Peço desculpas por não falar inglês, assim, então, mas aqui eu vou ler em inglês.
He said he feels really sorry for not speaking English with you today, but he has the translation of this text that he brought, and so he will read in English.
Until a great transformation, leave the being open. The great active power of abstrahir lies in the openness of being. Revolution is all around. Gradually burn the edges, shape and welcome the circle. Break the concrete on the canvas of existence. Make the revolution flow everywhere.